storytelling, and soft power. My name is Mary Masamo, and I'm your host. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to In Good Measure. You have to remember that in every boardroom, every meeting, every client, yes, data does support what you're saying, but storytelling really leaves an impact where people can always know that whatever you're talking about resonates with me or with them, if that's the client. Stories will help you build relatability. It will also help you tell the story in a different way. Stories will always help you to attract, inspire, and persuade the client that you do need for your business or people who you want or you desire to work with. You have to learn how to tell stories, whether it's about something that you are selling or the problem that your client is facing. Go ahead and explain it in the form of a story. That is why they tell us to read to children, because that keeps them remembering about things. And also, whenever you're teaching anything, a story will help keep the lesson intact. Storytelling is your greatest tool of influence. You have to remember that. You have to be intentional anytime that you're talking about a factor that is affecting your client. When you bring it up in conversation and you kind of see that your client is not understanding, even when you're talking about the challenges that they're facing, the benefits you offer, or the outcomes they should expect for working with you, and they cannot have all that in mind, yeah, sometimes a story works. They could be able to relate better to family or justice or something that is somehow within their culture very important. You need to learn how to tell that story your way to the client in order to get them to work with you. This will make you unstoppable. You have to remember that the way human beings define stories or use stories, it's to create meaning. If you just start speaking some words, which there's no story, in my mind I'm asking myself, why are you telling me this? It's usually better when you come with a story, because people remember stories 22 times more than data. Anytime you're telling a story, people will remember that more. Think of this. If religious books, the Bible, the Quran, or the Torah, anything that people are using as a religious book, there's a lot of stories in there. Those stories are for whether it's teaching or creating conversation around something that could be globally a debate. It could be a story regarding a virtue or a value that we need to have as human beings. If these religious books use stories to give lessons and even to pass a message, why do you think it's not going to work for your business? Go ahead and try this as a way to grow your global brand, and you will be shocked at how much propelling you will do for your business. There was this story I remember. My dad used to tell me when I was young. This was because I had this bad habit. I could play with my eyelid and just overturn it. And then just go ahead and scare my siblings. At that time, it was cute and funny, and I was young. I don't do that anymore. My dad one day told me, oh, so we used to grow up with this child. He gave me a story about how somebody they used to grow up with, he used to play that game a lot, kind of like me. And then a fly landed on the eyelid, and it peed on the eyelid, and the eyelid was stuck like that. So the eyes never went back to normal. Since that day, I never touched my eyelids anymore. Yes, it was a scare tactic, and he used it, and it worked very well. Until today, I can remember that story because it was very... Now it's funny. At that time, I kept blinking so many times to just make sure that my eyelids are still working and no fly has come anywhere close to me. This is just an example of how a story can go ahead and be remembered way more than data. If you came and told me, people who play with their eyelids are more likely, 5% of them will be, at that age, I wouldn't remember and I wouldn't care. But I did remember the story, and sometimes I use stories also to influence my child's behavior. So when you're sharing a story, you're not just giving information, you're building an emotional bridge. It's something that will build the relationship between you and your client or whoever you're talking to. You have to remember that these bridges are what will cross borders, cross languages, cross all that for your brand, and will help you in any form, shape or manner, or any forum that you are going to be represented on, whether it's yourself or as a brand, because your stories have surpassed the borders that you live in. Let's see how storytelling and soft power works together. Soft power, just remember, this is usually more of doing business where you're attracting your clients and not coercing them. Nobody wants to be coerced into doing anything, not even your client. They just want to be attracted to you. Whatever you're doing in business, you need to be working towards attracting the right client to you. Make them swim towards you. Let them resonate to the message that you have. Go ahead and make sure that whenever you're doing this form of attraction, it is like propaganda, but no propaganda. You have your presence, you have positioned yourself, and people perceive you extremely well. Maintain those check marks and remember everything that you're doing to maintain that soft power. Stories is a way that when you are trying to attract a client, you can give stories about how you worked with somebody and what kind of freedom it gave them. Talk about the outcome, but in form of a story. This will resonate better than just saying that 20% of the clients that I have worked with saw an increase in profit by 366%. Yes, numbers are good. Data is good. But you can also say, this was a single mom who was taking care of a child who had health issues, and she did not have time to go to work. So we found a solution. We were able to create services for them and price them the right way, and they're able to have a lifestyle with freedom where she's able to take the child to all the appointments that he needs, and she's able to also maintain a household and also have extra to travel. See, that's a story that has more impact than when I was dropping percentages and just plain data. Whenever you're talking about outcomes, benefits, make it a story, because that will attract them better. Whenever you're talking about international markets or anything brand-wise that is global, you have to remember that this will show up in terms of credibility, your perception, reputation, trust, sensitivity to culture, and the way you are also connecting with people. This is how the soft power will show up, especially internationally. So once your credibility is there, you are very conscious of people's culture, you have proof, and people trust you, it's easier for you to do business internationally or to just do business, period. Whenever you talk about soft power, yes, there's the opposite with the hard power, where you're forcing people, or you're using domination, authority, and you're really aggressive. That is something that, yes, it can work, but how long will you continue doing this in order to attract clients? And are you really attracting them? This can feel like some form of coercion. You have to remember that anything that you're doing or anything that you're saying in terms of your business or the solutions that you're providing, you have to let the client make up their mind. Let them make up their mind that this is somebody I want to work with. These are the solutions I'm seeking. These are the outcomes I'm seeking. This is how I want the solution done. If you do that, yes, they also had their own agency. That is what we are really cheering for. We can talk about Miss Chimamanda. Chimamanda, I heard of her the first time. Yes, I know this will sound very, very cliche, but whenever she was featured in a song that Beyonce sang, I had not read her books. I had not known what she was all about until I had the statement that was in Beyonce's song, and then I went ahead and did more research. When I researched, I realized that whatever she was talking about was something that I was in agreement with and was causing a lot of debate in all the platforms worldwide. This is how I learned of her. Despite her being a very big brand, I had to learn about her through Beyonce. Imagine that. As much as we can say that Chimamanda is very famous, she is still very non-aggressive. You will know of her when you know of her. You will know about her because you know about her. The platforms that she's on, the way she shows up online, her books, she's mostly rhetoric. So you need to be able to read her books and also understand and also come up with your assessment of whatever she's talking about. Otherwise, whatever she says might sound very offensive to others, but I do love her. Whenever you are in business, the stories that you're telling, they're different depending on the stages that the client is on or where you are with your business. There is the transformation story, there's the origin story, and then there's the inspirational story. The origin story is for the client to understand what you're about. Who are you? Why do I need to work with you? How do I like to know and trust you? This usually builds trust. You will tell people, I can give an example of myself. I will say, my name is Mary Masamo. I was born and raised in Kenya, but I went to study in the US and I worked in government contracting up to the GS14 level for over 10 years, and I came back. Now I help small businesses learn how to price and negotiate better. That is something that people will know about me. So they have known my name, what I do, and why I do it. The other thing is, if you do not have an origin story, people take a while to have that trust about your brand or even you as an individual. Most entrepreneurs, most solopreneurs or service providers who are providing their services and their expertise, they are the brand, and also their organization is the brand. The second type of story is the transformation story. This usually builds authority. It shows how you helped one client get from point A to point B. Maybe you were talking about them having extra money in their bank account. Anytime that you're talking about the transformation story, you have to go ahead and relate and bring that up, that this is the solution that my client was seeking, having extra money in their bank account. And we were able to come up with solutions because we changed her pricing and even structured her packages better to let her achieve that. These are things you say out loud and also show people that this is something that can work for them through having those transformation stories that will build your authority. And then there's the vision story. This is the story that shows what's capable. It inspires. It is the one that shows the client that this is possible for you too, because I have gotten somebody here before. It inspires alignment. You can say, these are my values, and I was able to build a solution. I was able to deploy it this way, and I got my client to this point B. So it can happen for you too. You just need to trust me. The way you tell these stories depend on where you found your client. Most people who usually deploy the storytelling method are leaders. When I say leaders, I'm talking presidents, people who are trying to even influence the culture where they're staying. We can talk about the newly elected presidents in Africa who are trying to build their nations and save from other nations. That way, they have to give these stories where they are inspiring people. They're building their authority and also building trust from their people. Yes, campaigns are somewhat like this, but once you're a president, for you to keep the trust and the integrity and also people having confidence in whatever you are saying, you need to keep telling their stories. In an organization, if you have a team and you're leading a team, go ahead and do that. Go ahead and lead in a way that you're telling stories. Inspire, build credibility, build authority, and also make sure that you're putting in alignment and build trust. When soft power is the energy, storytelling is the language. One attracts and the other anchors. The common mistakes that we have in storytelling is the first one, usually when people make the story about themselves. Whenever you're doing business, it's not a you show, it's the client's show. At that point, you have to remember, yes, you're good at what you do. You're excellent at what you're doing, but the person seeking the solution is the client, and the client is the person who is paying you. Always recall that you do not need to make the story about yourself. Make it about the client. Let the client feel that they're parts and parcel of this whole journey, this whole story. Make it about their life. Make it about their successes. Make it about their goals. Make it about their money. Everything that belongs to them, their family, their lifestyle, everything. It's about the client. Always remember that. The second mistake is that people will focus on too much cultural references. So sometimes when people are talking, yes, there's jargon that is understood in different countries. And when you speak of it in your country, people do understand it. But if you're doing business and you're trying to be global, or you're dealing with a client who is not local to you, you have to realize that some things might be confusing. So let's say the one statement that I found very confusing for a long time, I still do not have clarity on it till today, is when in America and you're in a meeting and people say, oh, let's put it on the table. They mean pause. And when in other countries, it could be put it on the table is that we're going to talk about it right now. They say let's table it. When you say let's table it, in America, it means that we're pausing this conversation. When you're outside America, let's table it is let's put everything on the table and we're going to be talking about it until we have a solution. So that's a very confusing statement. I feel that this is one statement that if you use in any meeting, people will understand it differently. So do not use such references. Whenever you're telling a story and you use too much humor or idioms, sometimes you can miss the mark. Something that's funny to you is not funny worldwide. You have to recall that. And yes, you might think that you're funny, but maybe I don't think so. Maybe I don't think that you're funny. Or the matter that I'm talking about, especially as a client, that this issue that has been bothering me is not funny to me. So if you start making use of humor or idioms, I might just not get it. And I will be wondering if you're even serious about what you're trying to say. The other thing that is a mistake that people usually do is neglecting the non-storytelling part, where there are other cues that come into play. Your tone, your presence, your pacing. If you're talking too fast, if you are talking and you're distracted, are you yelling? Are you whispering? Are you whispering? Can the other person hear you? What kind of tone are you using? All these are things that you should put into consideration, especially if you're telling a story and you're trying to influence the client to swim towards you, to attract them towards doing business with you. So connection usually fails, not because the story is wrong, but because it's told without the awareness of the audience's context. So practical strategies that you can use right now. Go ahead and test if your story would resonate in different markets. You can ask yourself, will this be understood in Tokyo? Will this be understood in Dar es Salaam? Will this be understood in South Africa? Will this be understood in New York? Make sure the language that you're using is something that's understood everywhere. This will work best for you. You need to anchor every story with values, not just details. Yes, what value are you giving? What value are you teaching here? So anytime that you're telling a story, remember you have to anchor it to a value, not just keeping the details in there. Because people are listening to what kind of values or lessons they're supposed to be learning, or what are they supposed to be picking up from there. You can always use silence as part of the story. You can let the client marinate and also digest whatever you've just talked about. Go ahead and tell the stories over and over and over until they're part of you. They feel natural. They're not scripted. And it's okay to borrow stories. It's okay to borrow stories from other people. You can quote them verbatim, or you can also use those words and change them into something that your audience will understand better. You know your audience better than I do, or you know your clients better than I do. So go ahead and just add a little dazzle here and there, and make sure that your client or your desired person that you're trying to work with can resonate with the story better. And always have some stories. I would say read a lot. The people who write, they're good at telling stories, unless you're reading an engineering book. But even some of those have some stories. Read, listen to other people's podcasts. You can also listen to, you can tell stories even from when you were younger, that your friends have shared with you, things that will resonate with other people. Go ahead and have those in your memory. I do have stories about different values that I bring out every now and then. But yes, have a bank, a stories bank, I would call it. So the most effective global leaders are not just improvising a story right there when they're talking. No, they have a couple of them that they pull up anytime they need to drive a point home. See how I use that term, drive a point home? We can also say anytime they're trying to attract somebody or build a relationship with the client or the person that they're talking to. Storytelling and soft power are not add-ons to influence. They are influence. They're how you inspire, persuade, and attract without force. Whenever you master both storytelling and soft power, you create a movement, because people will be moved by what you're saying. So go ahead and master how to mesh the two and make them work for your brand. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you enjoyed this episode, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. And until next time, my name is Mary, and see you later. Bye.